If your Suzuki Swift is overheating, or doing the opposite, taking forever to warm up and never giving you proper cabin heat, it's tempting to blame the thermostat and call it a 5-minute fix. And sometimes it is. But there's a reason people replace the thermostat, refill coolant, and then the car still overheats on the next drive. The part is simple. The system around it is not. Today I'm walking you through thermostat replacement on Suzuki Swift in a way that actually prevents the repeat overheat nightmare. The hidden step is not the bolts, it's the air you leave behind. Before you touch a tool, you want to be reasonably sure the thermostat is the problem. Because a low coolant level, a weak radiator cap, a fan that doesn't come on, or a partially blocked radiator can mimic thermostat symptoms so well that you'll swear the new thermostat didn't work. Here's the quick mental filter. A thermostat stuck closed usually looks like this. The engine warms up fast, the temperature gauge climbs higher than normal, and the upper radiator hose stays relatively cool longer than it should because hot coolant isn't being allowed to flow to the radiator. Cabin heat may start hot briefly and then go lukewarm as the system starts boiling pockets of coolant and pushing air around. If you keep driving, it can overheat hard. A thermostat stuck open is the opposite vibe. The car takes a long time to reach operating temperature, the heater is weak especially at idle or in cold weather, and the gauge may sit low or wander. Fuel economy can suffer because the engine never settles into its normal temperature range. Now, here's where people get tricked. If your coolant is low, you can get no heat and overheating at the same time, and it has nothing to do with the thermostat. So first, when the engine is stone cold, check the coolant level in the reservoir. If it's below the minimum line, that's already a clue. You may have a leak and air may already be in the system. Also look around the thermostat housing area, radiator end tanks, hose connections, and the water pump area for crusty dried coolant residue. Next, think about the radiator fan. If the car overheats mostly in traffic but cools down when you're moving, that points more toward airflow, fan operation, fan relay, fan fuse, or a clogged radiator. A thermostat issue can still do it, but the pattern matters. If you have a scan tool that can read live coolant temperature, use it. The dashboard gauge is damped on many cars, it can sit normal across a wide range and then suddenly spike. Live data lets you see whether the engine is actually reaching and holding a stable temperature. If you don't have a scan tool, you can still do a basic check, start the cold engine and let it idle. Feel the upper radiator hose carefully with your hand. It should stay cool at first, then as the thermostat opens, it should get hot fairly quickly. If it gradually warms from the beginning, that can suggest the thermostat stuck open. If it stays cool while the gauge climbs toward hot, that can suggest stuck closed or a circulation problem. None of these checks are perfect, but they help you avoid swapping parts blindly. Assuming the symptoms point to the thermostat, let's talk about what you're actually doing. The thermostat is a temperature-controlled valve that sits in a housing where coolant leaves the engine toward the radiator. On many Suzuki Swift engines, the easiest landmark is the upper radiator hose. Follow it from the radiator back to the engine, and where it meets the engine is typically the thermostat housing area. Depending on engine and year, access can be tight, and you may have to move an intake duct, an airbox section, or a couple of small brackets to get your hands in. Now, tools and supplies. You don't need a full workshop, but you do need to be prepared because coolant is messy and the housing is easy to damage if you rush. You'll want basic hand tools, a drain pan, rags, and something to safely catch and store all coolant. You'll want the correct replacement thermostat for your engine, and the correct sealing method. Some use an O-ring, some use a gasket, and some housings have a rubber seal integrated into the thermostat. Don't assume you can reuse the old seal. Also, have the right coolant on hand. If you're not sure what's in the car, it's safer to do a proper drain and refill with the correct type rather than mixing random coolants. And never plan on running straight water long term. It's not just about freezing, it's about corrosion protection and boiling margin. Safety matters here. Only open the cooling system when the engine is cold. Hot coolant under pressure can spray and burn you instantly. Cold engine, key off and give it time. Here's the approach that keeps this job clean and prevents the most common mistake. You don't need to drain the entire cooling system, but you do need to drain enough so that when you open the thermostat housing, coolant doesn't pour out like a waterfall and flood the alternator, belts, and everything else below. The goal is to lower the coolant level below the thermostat housing. Some Swifts have a radiator drain plug at the bottom, some are easier to drain by removing the lower radiator hose carefully. If you use the drain plug, be gentle, plastic drains can strip. If you remove a hose, twist it to break the seal before pulling, and be ready with the drain pan positioned properly. Once you've drained enough coolant, you can start on excess. Remove whatever is blocking the thermostat housing, intake snorkel, airbox lid, maybe a resonator. Take your time and don't break brittle clips. If you're moving hoses, note their routing so nothing rubs later. Now you're looking at the thermostat housing where the upper radiator hose connects. You'll typically see a couple of bolts holding the housing to the engine. Before you undo anything, clean the area. Dirt around the housing can fall into the opening when you remove it, and you don't want grit circulating through the cooling system. Loosen the hose clamp and slide the upper radiator hose off the housing if it's in the way. If it's stuck, don't pry aggressively with a screwdriver against the plastic neck, you can crack it. Work it gently, twist, and use a pick carefully around the edge if needed. Now remove the housing bolts. This is where people create their own problems. The housing can be aluminum or plastic depending on the setup, and the bolts are small. If you crank on them like wheel lugs, you can strip threads, crack the housing, or warp the sealing surface. When you remove the bolts, keep track of their length and position if they differ. As you separate the housing, expect some coolant to spill even if you drained. That's normal. Pull the housing away slowly. Now you'll see the thermostat. Pay attention before you yank it out. Thermostats have an orientation, and many have a small jiggle valve or bleed pin, a tiny loose pin in a small hole. That little feature is not decoration. It helps air pass through during filling and bleeding. If you install the thermostat backwards, or you put the jiggle valve in a position that traps air, you can end up with an airlock that causes overheating even with a brand new thermostat. So take a second and note how the old one sits. In general, the spring side faces the engine, because it needs to sense engine temperature. The jiggle valve, when present, is often best positioned near the top so air can escape upward. But don't guess if your old one clearly shows a specific orientation, match it. Remove the thermostat and the old seal or gasket. Then inspect the mating surfaces, the engine side and the housing side. You want them clean and smooth. If there's old gasket material, remove it carefully without gouging the metal. If it's an O-ring style seal, make sure the groove is clean and there's no hardened rubber stuck in it. This is also a good moment to check the housing itself. If it's plastic, look for hairline cracks around the neck and bolt holes. If it's aluminum, look for corrosion pitting where the seal sits. A thermostat job can turn into a leak chase if the housing is already compromised. Install the new thermostat in the correct orientation. Make sure it sits flat and fully seated. Install the new O-ring or gasket exactly as designed. If it's an O-ring, it should sit in its groove without twisting. A twisted O-ring can seal at first and then leak once it heats and expands. If it's a paper gasket, it should align with the bolt holes and coolant passages. Avoid smearing random sealant unless the design calls for it. Too much sealant can squeeze into the cooling passage and break off later. Reinstall the housing. Start the bolts by hand. This is not optional. Hand starting prevents cross-threading, which is an easy way to ruin your day. Tighten the bolts evenly, alternating between them so the housing pulls down flat. Snug is the idea. If you have the factory Torx spec, use it. If you don't, use common sense. Small bolts into aluminum don't need much. Over-tightening is one of the top reasons people end up with a cracked housing or a persistent seep. Reconnect the upper radiator hose and position the clamp properly. A clamp that's half on the neck and half off will leak under pressure. If the hose is old and swollen, it may not seal well even with a good clamp. That's not the thermostat's fault, but it will look like it. Now comes the step that decides whether this job is a success: refilling and bleeding. This is where thermostat replacement on Suzuki Swift goes from swap a part to restore a system. First, close the radiator drain if you opened it, or reattach the lower hose if you removed it. Make sure everything is secure before you pour coolant in. Use the correct coolant mixture. Many people use premix to avoid guessing. If you're mixing concentrate, use clean water in a proper ratio appropriate for your climate and the coolant type. The exact ratio depends on the coolant and conditions, so follow the coolant manufacturer guidance and your owner's manual if you have it. Fill slowly. If your Swift has a radiator cap on the radiator itself, fill at the radiator neck when the engine is cold. If it's a system that primarily fills through a reservoir, follow the correct fill point for your model. Filling too fast can trap air. Set the cabin heater to hot. This opens the heater circuit so coolant can flow through the heater core, which is a common place for air to hide. Fan speed doesn't matter much, temperature setting does. Now start the engine and let it idle. Keep the cap off initially if you're filling at the radiator, but be cautious, coolant can burp and splash as air escapes. Watch the coolant level. As the engine warms, the level may drop as passages fill. Top up as needed. You're watching for a few signs. 1. You should see occasional bubbles at first as air purges. That's normal. 2. As the thermostat opens, you may see a more noticeable movement of coolant, and the upper radiator hose will get hot. 3. The heater inside the cabin should start blowing consistently hot air once coolant is circulating properly through the heater core. If the temperature gauge starts climbing toward hot and the upper hose is still cold, shut it down and reassess. That can mean the thermostat isn't opening, but it can also mean you have a big air pocket preventing circulation. Sometimes gently squeezing the upper radiator hose helps move trapped air along, but don't do anything aggressive near belts or fans. As the engine reaches operating temperature, the radiator fan should cycle on and off at some point. You don't need to know the exact temperature number to understand the behavior, stable gauge, fan cycles, no sudden spikes. If the fan never comes on and the gauge climbs, that's a separate problem you need to address. Once you're confident the thermostat has opened and the system has burped most of the air, install the radiator cap. A weak or damaged cap can cause boiling at a lower temperature and push coolant out, so if your cap seal looks cracked or the spring feels weak, consider replacing it. Again, not because it's trendy, but because it's part of how the system holds pressure. Let the engine idle a bit longer, then shut it off and let it cool completely. Cooling down is when the system will pull coolant from the reservoir back into the radiator if everything is working correctly. After it's fully cold, recheck the coolant level in the reservoir and top up to the correct mark. Many people skip this cold recheck, and that's how they end up driving around slightly low on coolant, slowly reintroducing air, and blaming the thermostat again. Now, verification. You want to confirm 3 things: temperature stability, no leaks, and normal heater performance. Temperature stability means the gauge behaves normally on a mixed drive, idle, city speeds, and a bit of highway. It should warm up in a reasonable time and then stay steady. Heater performance means you get consistent heat at idle and while driving, not heat that comes and goes. No leaks means you check around the thermostat housing, hose connections, and the drain point for any wetness after the first heat cycle and again after the next day's drive. If you still have overheating after doing everything correctly, don't keep throwing thermostats at it. At that point, you're looking at other causes: trapped air that still hasn't purged, a radiator fan issue, a clogged radiator, a slipping water pump impeller, a collapsing hose, or in worst cases combustion gases entering the cooling system. You don't need to jump to the worst conclusion immediately, but you do need to stop assuming the thermostat is the only gatekeeper of temperature. There's also a subtle scenario: you replace the thermostat, and now the car runs hotter than before, but only sometimes. That can happen if the old thermostat was stuck open and masking another weakness, like a partially clogged radiator. With the old thermostat, coolant was always flowing, and the system never built heat quickly. With the new thermostat, the engine reaches proper temperature faster, and the cooling system has to perform correctly under load. If the radiator is marginal, the problem shows up. That doesn't mean the new thermostat is wrong, it means the system is finally operating as designed, and the weak link is now visible. One more mistake that's worth calling out: installing the thermostat backwards. It sounds too basic, but it happens constantly because people are focused on bolt holes and gaskets, not on which side senses temperature. If the spring side isn't facing the engine when it should, the thermostat can behave unpredictably. And if there's a jiggle valve and it's not oriented to let air escape, it can trap a bubble right where the thermostat needs liquid coolant to sense temperature. That bubble delays opening, the engine spikes hot, and you're convinced you got a defective part. Most of the time, it's not defective. It's dry. So if you remember only one thing, make it this: the thermostat swap is only half the job. The other half is restoring a sealed, air-free cooling system. After you've done a proper refill and bleed, and you've confirmed stable temperature and no leaks, that's when thermostat replacement on Suzuki Swift is truly finished. Not when the bolts are tight. Not when the reservoir looks about right. Finished is when the car warms up normally, the heater is steady, the fan cycles as expected, and the coolant level stays consistent after a full cool down. If you treat it that way, a cheap thermostat becomes a real fix instead of the start of a frustrating loop.